Hello, my people. Today on the Black Commentary Podcast, we're gonna be talking about: Hey, has sex gotten out of control? Is it too recreational? We're gonna be talking about Roe versus Wade overturned, but there's more. Did you know that your Miranda rights been is no longer existent either? I mean, this ain't no laughing joke. But we're gonna talk about this and much more on the Black Commentary Podcast. Do not go anywhere. I'm your host, Marcus Hart. Let's run it.
Bringing you the theory of what's happening with the black family, black wealth, and the fear of a black man. It's the black American experience that we truly look at, plagued by a traumatic history and countless chances of accountability from all parties involved. Join us, and let's get in tune with the Transform Youth Black Commentary Show with your host, Marcus Hart. Now here's your host.
Hey, what's going on? It's your host, Marcus Hart. I'm back. So, you see the title, you see the scroll on the bottom. We're going to be talking about, yes, you guessed it, everybody else talking about it. We're going to be talking about abortion rights, but there's more. Did you know that your Miranda rights was is no longer in existence too? So we're gonna be talking about that too. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that man, it's like what's going on in the water? Is somebody drinking water that is contaminated or what? I mean, is this a good thing? Is that a good thing? Are we trying to divide the nation further? Are we trying to turn back the clock? Are we headed forward? What are we doing? Okay. Are we allowing the government to control our lives too much? Is government too much in our lives? But before I go off into abortion access and the outlawing of that, with the Roe versus Wade overturning, I really got to dive into Miranda rights protection and the dismantling of church and state separation, and then also the expansion of gun rights. All of this happened just in a matter of days, just days. Okay, that this happened. These four key landmark rulings that have extended protections to the nation's most vulnerable populations for decades are now being turned around, and they're no longer so. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, I know everybody thought I was gonna come on here and get to like running off at the mouth and celebrate hooing about abortion, knowing that like I'm a conservative and I'm a moderate conservative. So, you probably thought like, hey, this guy, he's going to beat us up. He's going to say, oh yeah, pro life, we won, we did it. But I'm a moderate conservative, so I also can see the other side of things. I also look at things in a much broader view. I don't just take the salt and not consider the pepper. I take a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and I say, okay, do we need both of these, or do I just need a little bit of salt? Do I need just a little bit of pepper? Because in the world we are in, everything is situational. Things can be situational. Things can have many possibilities outside of the scope of the possibilities. And the way that America was designed, unfortunately, I mean, is it unfortunate, or is it first fortunate in a good thing? But looking at the way our country was designed, I believe our forefathers they understood that, okay, to a certain extent, government should be able to regulate some things and be able to still have some control and look at the landscape of the population of the masses and say, okay, well, chaos is ensuing and things are tipping over to a bit to the extreme. So let's wheel it on back a bit, okay? So let's just impose our will through that of constitution, this living body constitution of this constitution, and what this constitution we have this constitution to look at, and what thou should not do, thou should not be doing because thou is doing a little bit too much of that. Okay, and you states need to get your people in line, or we're going to step in and this living, breathing constitution and smack it right over your little state head. Okay, but then the forefathers was thinking also like, hey, you know what? We do not want too much federal intrusion. We don't want too much state intrusion of the people because, like, when we were under the rule of the British of a monarchy, subject to what a king or a queen had to say, you know, it's like we had no say so in the process. We had uh, no which way of how we could move as a people. We could not be individualized. We could not really truly have freedom as a people. There was no liberty, no feeling of this liberty. There was no that of, like, that of ownership. Okay, ownership. Ownership of where I live, ownership of even myself. People could come in and say, you know what, I want that, in which you stay. And matter of fact, I want your body too, because the king and queen gave me permission to do so. So we threw that out, and the Constitution gave birth, and these these colonies became states, and we came as a nation. But now here we are. Here we are, centuries later. Even after a decade, a couple of decades after, like, making some changes, and it's like it's like we it's like we kind of forgetting. It's like America kind of had a bit of an amnesia of where it came from. Okay, because why why is it that this beautiful nation in which we live in which we all were born and naturalized, and has all of a sudden had an amnesia of where they have come from? Okay, I tell you why. Is that of people that are living out their liberty, living out their freedom, and they're getting so much freedom, getting so much liberty, and they are individualizing themselves to the point where they 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 want to suck up power. They want to feel the power, and then they get clicked up. Okay, this is why we see so much division now in our country, because, like, hey, you know I'm raised over the years, over the centuries, on this and this and this, and then you hook up with this person in an Ivy League school, or you hook up with this person in a fraternity, or wherever you may go, or you might, or it might be a gang. I don't know, but whatever the case may be, you start associating yourself with whatever you believe in, and then, so that you don't get cast out of that group, you start embracing some of these things that, like, this group believes in, and then the group tells you, like, hey, if you don't do this, if we don't move this way, we gonna lose our momentum. Okay, so that's what we see a lot in these political parties, especially. Okay, both on the left, both on the right. Okay, now remember, I'm a moderate conservative, so, but, like, I have no problem with, you know pointing a finger at either party. Okay, yeah. So you have this happening, and and this is why you see major cities uh, to hell. They to hell, and you wonder like why is these cities that's like clearly they have a bunch of liberals running it, or clearly they got a bunch of conservatives running it, and like it's like the people are just suffering, because they're highly they're dominating the people. Okay, they're dominating the people. They are constantly put in power, and they're exercising that power, and they're keeping their subordinates, the people that like they have subjugated them, subjugated to them, um, just stupid, keeping them stupid, keeping them plain stupid. Okay, and then now we got the media, big media. Okay, we got big media playing into it now, because big media realized that like, hey, we can make a buck if we sway this way or sway that way, and all we gotta do is just report, you know, such and such and such and such. Don't report so much of this. Don't report something of this. Twist this story just a bit. You make it sound like this. Villainize, villainize, turn that person to a villain. I'm just gonna say, turn that person to a villain, and voila, we're gonna keep the people, as goats, keep them tuned in, to our buzz BS stories. Okay, that's how they control you. That's how they program you. That's how they stay in power. That's how they keep their money lined up in their pockets. Yeah, so yeah, that's how what you see happening with our economy continue to crumble. That's how you see so much, uh, with our doggone middle class just continue to shrink further, and the hyper wealthy continue to get hyper wealthy. Because why? Because they're smart enough to just stay in tune and stay educated, stay well read. They're not like fall into the trap of like of being a goat, or maybe most of them sometimes are associated with the oligarchy that is just taking the whip and constantly whipping everybody into a involuntary and voluntary slavery. Okay, slavery of the mind, slavery of inaction. Okay, you know we don't want them to do anything. We don't want them to uh, make any false movements. We don't want them to make any movements that's going to like uh, pull the sheets over us. Okay, and reveal truly what's really going on. Okay, because like I said, like I mentioned at the beginning. Okay, four landmark rulings, and all we hearing about is abortion. Why are what people are so angry about the ability to kill babies, but nobody's talking about Miranda rights. Talking about church and state separation. Nobody's talking about doggone expansion of gun rights. Why? Why? And I just explained. I just went to a whole spiel about it. But I'm gonna say it one more time because they are keeping you stupid. Okay, they are making you follow the trend. They are exploiting your emotions. They are only giving you what's going to pull at your heartstrings. Okay, and like I'm like, mm, this has a correlation, right? This has some correlation. It's really funny that the leading story, has a lot to do with sex, and what does sex have so much to do with like emotion? Sex has a lot to do with emotion. So you put that at the front, right? Put that at the front. We put something so emotional at the front so that you can like slide in all of this stuff that's really going to mess people over. Abortion is not really going to really like destroy people as much as people think. Okay, we can innovate around that. Now, Miranda rights, I don't know how you can get around that. I don't know what you're going to do when a police officer pulls you over. And the minute you want to get emotional or you want to jump bad or you got a warrant or some sort, man, and like you so used to having your rights read to you, you know, the right to remain silent. Now it does like everything you say is going to be used against you against court because you're not going to be read those rights. Those Miranda rights do not no longer exist. They no longer exist. Okay, and we want to sit up here and really really get upset about abortion. So what? Let's revisit Miranda rights. The Miranda warning is a type of notification customary given by police to criminal suspects in police custody or in a interrogation, advising them of their right to remain silent, protection against self-incrimination. It's the right to refuse to answer questions or provide information to law enforcement or other officials. These rights are referred to as Miranda rights. The purpose of such notification is to preserve the admissibility of their statements made during custodial interrogation and later criminal proceedings. This is bad. And this came from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda versus Arizona. That language was used in warning, varied between jurisdictions, of course, but the warning is deemed adequate as long as the defendant's rights of property disclose such that any waiver of those rights by the defendant is knowing, voluntary, and intelligent. For example, the warning may be phrased as follows: you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions. You have the right to have a lawyer with you during question. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you have the right to stop answering at any time. So the Miranda warning is part of a preventive criminal procedure rule that law enforcement are required to administer to protect the individual who is in custody and subject to direct questioning or its functional equivalent from a violation of their Fifth Amendment right against compelled self-incrimination. You don't think this is bad? Why are we focused on doggone abortion rights and we're not taken to the streets about Miranda rights? Again, it's because we are so tied to, we're so easily swayed by things that are so emotional. Okay, so and again, like sex. Now let's deal with this. Now we'll come back to Miranda rights. Let's deal with the whole issue of abortion. So, was this a bad or a good call? Here's a breakdown of it. Sex has gotten out of control. Let's be real. We have become a hypersexualized nation. Okay, everything is hypersexualized. You can find it everywhere. You can find it free on Pornhub. You can find it anywhere. And like and you can find it in music. And like you can find Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion humping each other on a concert stage, and nobody will care. Okay, and if you dare say something, you're totally out of line. And we wonder why so many babies are being made. Okay, because we have liberated the woman, gave her the right to say, okay, go out. You have a hall pass to go. You have sex with whoever you want. This thing used to be like this. Okay, it used to be a time where courting and getting to know someone and waiting until you get married was like, was just really the thing, and was the thing that you just had to do. But like now, this whole bit of like complaciveness, this whole bit of idea that like, hey, You can make it on your own if you have a baby, and or if you have a baby, we got plan A, we got plan B, we got plan C, and plan D is just kill it. Okay, if it goes too far, just kill it. Okay, so sometimes what happens is when these women, and we deal with the man in a second. When these women are, so out here loose, loose as a goose, doing what they want to do. All right, and and they're just having a hard time vetting man, if they're having a hard time at all, or if they're so emotionally driven by lust and they're so compelled, and there's there's this whole thing that like uh women say that like they really didn't want to, or they do it out of fear, or because someone won't stop, or it's because it's easier just give it get it over with. And it's really hard to like to say that like with full confidence that like, hey, is that really a thing, that like you know um that you know that we got men that are just pure animals, or do we have women that just like that just really are not competent, or they're just not competent enough to, or responsible enough to get themselves out of situation, or not put themselves in situations where they feel like they're under this intense pressure, or this unsafe situation that they can't get. They gotta have sex. And it's like, okay, something's wrong. Who's raising you, or are you even listening to your parents? Yeah, these is issues that are like that are really getting we getting lazy on these issues. And one thing you can appreciate about this overturning is that it's got to open up conversation like this. It should open up conversation like this, because when you are on autopilot for so long, and you get so comfortable with like, okay, well, if I get in this situation, I know I got a way out. Okay, well, now that you don't got a way out, you don't have that easy way out anymore. You got to do some more thinking, beforehand and after the fact. Okay, but that after the fact shouldn't happen now. Now we need to have parents really really hammer put laying the hammer down about like, hey, this is consequences. This is the situations you shouldn't get yourself into. Now we need to have more conversations, more advocacy, for rape. Like what does this conversation about rape really looks like? Because like that's like that seems to be like the biggest argument that I'm hearing about this. Like, oh, what if I get raped? What if I get raped? What if I get raped? I get raped. I've been raped. Incest. Okay, so let's have the conversation. Why haven't this haven't been the conversation for the past couple of decades? Why have we got so lazy and so complacent? Okay, and we hear things about dad of like trying to save the mother. Let's kill the baby so the mother doesn't die, because like the baby, if the mother carries the baby full term, possibility she might die. Well, where's the research? Where's the research to make pregnancies more safer? How did we arrive to become a nation that's become so lazy, so incompetent, you know, and and not innovative? There's so much innovation, so much innovation that we can do. There's opportunity in this right now. There's lots of opportunity, and 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 uh, and and being able to bring family back together. So for one, we can create families, because now if we have women and we have men who are practicing safer sex, or practicing better dating, exercising better dating habits, where they're actually dating and courting versus just like let's just hang out and then jump into bed. You know, well, we're not going to have like these these um, highly likely possibilities of babies being born out of wedlock. Okay, maybe people will say, well, I like you, I really, really like you, and I really do want to get married to you, so maybe we should get married and then have a baby next. Okay, or maybe let's have a baby and let's stay together, and and like let's really, really stay together, really work through this thing, because like now there's no other options, and we'll get married down the line. However you got to do it. Or or possibly, we're going to look at different options for um, birth control, or immediately taking that plan B after it happens. Okay. But, of course, we hearing rumors of like contraceptions possibly being banned too. That's up in the air too. That like Clarence Thomas is thinking about banning contraception, but that's another story, for another day. But while we are here where we are right now, let's continue to have the conversation about all the different options that we got, because it seems as though like people do not want to lose their heads. They think that like this is the end all be all, and we need to just stop where we are. We need to just cry crocodile tears, take to the streets, and just beg and plead for this right. Okay, they made a ruling. It's really hard to to get them to change their minds about this, and when you're dealing with the state, I mean, maybe you can sway the state a bit, but there's still going to be challenges to get abortions done outside of the state. So but like, why why even even have this in our heads when we need to be more critical thinking human beings, and really, really use more of our brains instead of being so lazy and waiting for government to tell us what we need to do. Okay. The problem is we are really not taking the time out to really uh, take the power we have. Okay. We still have power. Still have power to figure things out, outside of what's been rude. And like what disappoints me most, and we see it so much in the black community, is that we just turn victim right away. We just turn victim right away, and we just give up so easily. It's like, that's it. It's like that's it. It's like, okay, well they took this away from me. Ain't nothing I can do. That's a doggone lie. There is something you can do. Your head in. Okay, now on the part of like, you know, who does your body belong to? Hmm. Well, of course, your body belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the government. And now, if we're talking spiritual, okay, now I at some point, maybe tomorrow on tomorrow's show on the Good Uphill Wisdom Show, I'll talk more spiritual on terms of like the soul and the soul and how that looks, and like the presence of the soul being here the whole time, even before conception happens. Now it's two bodies being formed. So at that point, you know, once that other body is birth, does that body truly belong to you? Is that body still yours? I mean, that body is developed inside of you, but I mean, it's really hard to like say that like, oh, like I got say so over something that's growing inside of me, but it was put inside of you, put inside of you. It's complicated. Okay, so like when we say that, like, mm, I'm gonna. I mean, it's really complicated. But on this whole topic of like, the government having some control over your body. Now, if it's to protect the good of the whole, if we are getting too out of hand, somebody got to step in and say, hey, maybe the harm that you are doing to yourself can ultimately cause harm to the rest of humanity, or it may cause a domino effect to the rest of humanity. Like, it's like it's like with like suicide. Suicide is another complicated one. It's like, do you allow somebody to commit suicide? Do you allow assisted suicide? Assisted suicide. It's assisted suicide murder. Is suicide murder on yourself? It's like, I mean, nobody talked. I mean, this is one that like nobody really talks about. That was a really confident. I mean, it's my body. I should be able to commit suicide. What I mean, but so you're going to commit suicide, and you're going to consider everyone everyone that you leaving behind. I mean, you have a how do you have a right to terminate your life and be so selfish? I mean, this is kind of like the arguments that you will get, when you know I, when like faced with like telling someone like, hey, I'm really contemplating suicide. People will say, well, I may understand like, the burden, that you may be feeling of life, and like life may be hard, and like, and I mean, yeah, I mean, you have a right to your life, and like how you want to live your life, and like into your happiness, and maybe freeing yourself from suffering. But at the same time, you know, there's other alternatives. But this is what people are kind of saying to like those who are kind of in the situation of abortion. Like, hey, I know you want to like just end it all, and get rid of that baby, but there's other alternatives, other options. There's other things, other lives involved, and so this is where like, we feel like we got to step in and and kind of pull people back, to a neutral position in in like these in this particular realm with this topic. Like, it's like, because like, although, yeah, you got sovereignty of your body, but at the same time, you still got a responsibility to the rest of humanity. You have a responsibility, to this life, that's outside of your own life. And when you look at it like that, a lot of times people aren't willing to be that selfless, to kind of step outside of themselves, and like and really observe the bigger picture, the bigger purpose of life. Okay, we have gotten even more connected with the internet. We gotten more connected with technology, and it's like what one does truly does sort of like, in a way, affects the other now. And I mean, it used to be not that way, but as time continues to push forward, as like, as we advance, we have to consider that, like, we are much more in close proximity with each other, and can like travel, uh, like that now. Transportations is not an issue. I mean, yeah, gas is high, but you can get to somebody pretty quickly. If they drop the location, you don't even have to physically leave. You can just jump on a virtual call. Even the way you are viewing this right now, it's like you are in my space. But like, and like, we feel what the other feels. And we are connected, much more than we what we used to be. But unfortunately, Doggone it. Like people don't believe that. People think they're still in their own little world. We're not. This world has gotten much smaller. It's going to continue to get a lot more smaller, and with like more crises and with like this whole idea that maybe climate change is really a real. It's like dude, we have to really be kind of looking at like our moral compass a little bit more, and I don't think many people are ready to do that, but yeah, somebody has to do it. I mean, if it has to come through uh, through way of like constitution, to kind of like push us to like kind of say, okay, well, how can we figure this out ourselves, both ourselves, but also on a level where we can like kind of coexist with like with the government, because like uh, people do not like being told what to do. People do not like the fact that like the government exists. Some people do, some people don't. Some don't mind like getting them checks from the government, but like when it comes to like the government telling them what to do, it's like mm-mm. I for one, I'm not for a big government, but there are times when government got something. Now back to Miranda rights, however, though. Now when the government says like, hey, listen, dude, we're gonna allow our people to prosecute you. We're gonna allow our people to uh, make sure that like if they think you're a criminal, that they're gonna make sure that that you get criminalized to the highest degree. And that if you you know happens to slip up during an interrogation, that's on you. That's not right. There's nothing right about that. And again, we so focused about abortion rights and we're forgetting the fact that Miranda rights, they don't exist anymore. You're not going to get a police officer or detective or anybody sitting you down and telling you what your Miranda rights are. You better know what your rights are now. You better know. That's all I gotta say. And on this thing about expansion of gun rights, this is another issue where mm, gun ownership is like, okay, it's my gun. I bought it. It's my land. I need to protect it. It's my family. I need to protect them. Okay, it's myself. I need to protect them. But these guns, we know what these guns are capable of, right? And the Wild Wild West, the day Wild Wild West. There's a reason why we advanced out of those days of the Wild Wild West. Okay, and there's a reason why we start like kind of putting some limits on, what you can do with a gun, and where you should have a gun, and how concealed a gun should be, and whatnot. So if this is going to happen, us as a people, we need to also be able to advance much faster to realize that like, hey, guns are actually dangerous. Is this did you ever realize that people are still under this impression that like guns are not dangerous, and like and like you and then we got people that think that like guns don't get into the hands of like the wrong people. Okay, but like what offends me the most is that like people who have the knowledge of guns, people who like know what they're doing, people who are responsible with guns, they get put in that category with people who don't know what the hell they're doing, or people who are the wrong type of people to have guns. Okay, so this is the issue with the expansion of guns, because we got people who know what they're doing, people who are responsible, and people who are not responsible. It's like driver's license. Okay, there's people on the road who don't need to be on the road. But does that mean we should stop giving people a driver's license? Does that mean we will we say like, okay, nobody gets driver's license? Oh, okay, we'll just make driver's license stuff to get to a certain extent. Yeah, I would say yay. But at the same time, there's people on the road who don't got a driver license, anyways. Okay, so why not just punish those people, right? Yeah, you should, but does that happen? How often does that happen? It happens, but like, does it happen to the point where people get it and they understand it? The issue is the lack of education, the lack of really encountering people, engaging people with the education, with the like the with like the intent to say, hey man, listen, this is dangerous. Okay, this is really dangerous. This is really what the consequences are, and let's start at a very young age, telling you, from yay high all the way up to this high, telling you that like, hey, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. This is how you should go about this. Okay, instead of like letting people grow up, assuming that they get it, but you would expect people to get it. But this is why Constitution was created in the first place, because we just can't have people just running around rampant. We just can't have people running around so free, that just making up things on their own. Like, yeah, power back to the people, but like the people cannot properly govern themselves if they don't have the sense enough, the common sense enough to know that like, hey, I cannot just walk around with a gun and then when I get mad at someone, I just take it out and bang bang bang. Or I just cannot go buy a gun for a felon that has a couple of bodies on his name anyways, and hand it to him, knowing that he's going to take it and do something crazy with it. Like, people, we don't have knowledge. We don't have common sense. So like, again, it's good that we want to expand gun rights, because like, yeah, we need to protect ourselves from people who like, again, that example of the driver's license. There's people on the road who don't have driver's license, and there's people on the road who have driver's license who are responsible, who's doing the right thing, and then they turn around and like, they either become victim of a car crash, with someone who don't have insurance and they don't have a license, but because we're doing the right thing, they're not punished for it, so you want to reward people who's responsible. You want to not reward people who aren't responsible. So as long as we find a way to, further, punish those people who are not responsible, who are not doing the right thing, we can continue to have these type of rights suspended. Um, but again, if we want to compare this into abortion, this we gotta let's be real. There's been people who's been negligent on I can't say it. There's people who's been out of control with this. Just so he's been reckless, he's been totally reckless with this, been out of control, and has been using it as birth control. Okay. Um, let's go back. Let's talk about one last thing, and then we're gonna get out of here. So the last thing, final thing, is that of like church and state. Okay. Separation of church and state. Now, um, when we talk about the separation of church and state, so it first of all, it started off as a philosophy, and then it became a judicial precedence. It became a judicial concept for defining political distance in the relationship between religious organizations and the state. So the term refers to the creation of a secular state, with or without legal explicit church-state separation, and to disestablishment, the change of an existing formal relationship between the state, the church, and the state. Although so like, what the hell does that mean? So although the concept is older, the exact phrase separation of church and state is derived from the wall of separation between church and state, and it was coined by Thomas Jefferson. The concept was promoted by the Enlightenment philosophers such as John Locke. So what does that mean? Sounds like I keep repeating myself, right? So So in a society, right, the degree of political separation between the church and the civil state is determined by the legal structures and the prevalent legal views that define the proper relationship between organized religion and the state. So the arm's length principle proposes a relationship wherein two political entities interact as organizations, each independent of the authority and the other. Strict application of the circular principle is used in France, where circular societies such as Norway, Denmark, and England maintain a form of constitutional recognition of an official state religion. Okay, the philosophy of so if we want to talk about uh, England, Norway, and Denmark, what does that look like there? Okay, they they still have a official state religion, whereas like the Catholicism um, is really heavily influential in what happens in England. Okay, Catholicism really really sways a lot of UK dealings, and I mean, whew, you can just walk around London. You can see a lot of the influence of the Catholic Church. You can see, the fact that they still have a monarchy kind of attached to the government is a clear indication that, like, state and religion is one. Okay, so does it work for them? I, I mean, it depends on who you ask. Okay, I mean, it's obviously what's happening over there. Um, so what's happening over there though? Like, I mean, what's pretty interesting is like, you know, I mean, although England has this Christian, Christian roots, and it's like, I mean, you don't see people being persecuted for practicing any other religion or anything like that. I mean, it doesn't really appear that like um, it's being imposed on them or anything like that. Like, but anyways, I mean, read further. Let's help. So the philosophy of separation of the church from the civil state parallels the philosophies of secularism, disestablishment, religious liberty, and religious pluralism. By way of these philosophies, the European states assume some of the social roles of the church and the welfare of the state. A social shift that produced a culturally circular population and public sphere. In practice, church-state separation varies from the total separation mandated by the country's political constitution, as in India and Singapore, to a state religion, as in the Maldives. Uh, so you start having these overlapping. There was a lot of overlapping that was happening. uh, and you had Augustine, Saint Augustine. He wrote a lot about it. He wrote a lot about the city of God, heaven city, and the temporal city. And how people need to live together and get along on earth. And how like the church was really crucial in ensuring that. And then in Reformation, at the beginning of the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther, uh, he articulated the doctrine of two kingdoms. Where he was really like preaching about the the conception of like this separation of church and state. How like you should have this over here, this over here. And one of the results of that was that some people fled Great Britain to be able to worship as they wish. And after the American colonies revolted against George III of the UK, the Constitution of the United States was amended to ban the establishment of religion by um, Congress. So, you know, people fled from the UK, from Great Britain, anyways, to get away from like being forced into worship or being told how they should worship. I mean, but like again, we're dealing with something that is centuries upon centuries old. Okay, and like, does it really, like, really matter? How much does it really matter? To I think if you wonder if we're like wondering about um is it my business here, like is it a business of the government to inquire about the power or the dignity of the clergy? Is it the government's business to get into the civil affairs of the church, or vice versa? For the church to have some influence on the government, because we know there's mega churches, or how about this thing about taxing the churches? Um, I mean, that's a huge one. The ability to tax churches, tax nonprofits, like that, like our church space and religion space, or the fact that, like, we might uh, turn around, you know, um, you know, um, and say like, okay, well, we're going to prohibit the free exercise of this particular religion in this particular part of the locality because we got about this many Baptist churches in this particular area, or we feel like this Baptist is a monopoly in this area, and so one of you guys got to go, or two of you guys got to go, like, so like, I mean, this can really get weird, and I mean, it's just really it's really really strange how weird this might get at some point. And I don't know how weird it's going to get, with like now the separation of church and state being overturned. Like, I don't know if the Pope now is going to have be able to like have say so, have influence over the president. This thing can get very weird. And people were really hung up about prayer in schools. Now that can happen now. So like, there's so many things now that's going to be turned around. Um, it's going to get weird. So again, how much of it would it disturb your life, your freedom? It depends on who you are. But like, again, we have to innovate. We have to not be so lazy, not be so complacent. We have to, really think outside of the box, and really do more, and be better as a people, to not get so stupid. Be so stuck on stupid. We get so stuck on stupid and become victims. So the whole point, the whole idea, and what my call to action is to do not be stupid. Do not continue to be stupid. Because like, for so long we have been stupid on stupid upon stupid. So we have to be unstupid, and really start looking outside of the box, and really start learning, learning how we can, take what's been done, and and either embrace it, or we cannot embrace it. And if we don't embrace it, find a way how we can use it to our advantage, or work out something that we can help to improve the lives of people that's that it may be making it worse for. You know, so this is where we call on the inventors. This is where we call on the thinkers. This is where we call on philosophers. This is where we call on those who are the inspirers. We call on people of wisdom. We call them the educators. We call them the scientists. We need all of these smart people now to, like, come on board, all hands on deck, and like figure out some solutions, so that we can live with this, because, like, if people just continue to go around, be zombies, and just want to go out and yell in the streets and fight about it, piss about it, and cry about it and moan about it, what good is that? It's no good. It's not going to do you any good. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help society advance. We got to continue to advance society. We're not moving forward. We're not moving backwards. We're actually moving forward. Society doesn't move backwards. Time since I last looked at it doesn't move backwards. If that was the case, I'll be getting younger. I'll be 16 again. Like, it looks like I'm still getting older. But so we have to innovate. We have to open our minds. We have to see the bigger vision, and see how God wants to use us in these times. All right. So this is not the time to like piss and moan. And if you're gonna do that, you know, do it with some intelligence. Do it with like some substance, and really look at the things that matter. Um, and let's educate each other. It's truly educate each other, and not go down this rabbit hole of foolishness. That's all I got for you on the Black Commentary Podcast Show. We are back again for our new season, and we're gonna be broadcasting more regularly again. Until next time, many blessings, peace, and lots of love. I'm Marcus Hart, and I'm out.